New allegations of war crimes as the latest intelligence points to a brutal Russian assault across the eastern part of the country. For the first time, we're hearing of a skyrocketing number of casualties. President Zelensky saying tens of thousands of civilians have been killed. Today, the U.S. and the United Nations responding to reports of chemical weapons in the key port city of Mariupol, as well as allegations of rape and sexual violence by Russian troops. Paul Gerke outside the UN with more. Paul?
Good morning, Adrienne. The mayor of Mariupol fears that 10,000 number could be an understatement, that as many as 20,000 people could be dead. He says the streets of Mariupol are carpeted with bodies. The United Nations has learned that nearly 2/3 of Ukrainian children have left the country since the war began. And as Russia fortifies its positions in the east, Ukraine is investigating more possible war crimes.
Overnight, President Vladimir Zelensky has warned of a new potential threat to the Ukrainian people. Chemical weapons.
One of the mouthpieces of the occupiers stated that they could use chemical weapons against the defenders of Mariupol. We take this as seriously as possible.
Ukraine is investigating whether such weapons were used in Mariupol. Victims exposed to an unknown substance reportedly deployed by a drone have suffered respiratory failure. If that's the case, according to British Armed Forces Minister James Heapy, all options are on the table.
President Putin should be clear that the use of chemical weapons is simply not acceptable, and he shouldn't expect the West to stand by if they were used.
Drone video reveals boundless devastation in Mariupol, where at least 10,000 civilians have died. The Russian word for children, left there as a deterrent to airstrikes, is still legible outside what used to be a drama theater. It collapsed during a strike last month, killing at least 300 people. In the north, cleanup efforts continue. Retreating Russian forces left landmines in their wake. Thousands of them are being disposed of daily.
There, on the roof. I live there. Above my apartment, there's a hole in the roof. It's a new roof. It was done just a couple of years ago. I think there's one there, too.
The mines were left on private property, under cars, in doorways. Act Zelensky considers more war crimes committed by the Russian army.
They consciously did everything to make the return to these areas after deoccupation as dangerous as possible.
The United Nations is gathering accounts of rape and sexual violence in Ukraine. A human rights group has accused Russian troops of using sexual assault as a weapon of war. Each day, more women are coming forward.
Real cases, real people, real facts. We see extreme traumatization, fear for life, not readiness to talk about what had happened. Those who managed to escape somehow to safer place are too traumatized to report.
President Zelensky wants to ensure Russia is punished for any potential war crimes in a timely fashion. On Monday, he met with a group working on the creation of a mechanism for pretrial investigation of such crimes.
We are working on a legal way to bring the occupiers to justice.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a warning to the West this morning, saying sanctions against Russia will fail, citing the success of the Soviet space program under similar conditions. Putin is set to meet with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko today. Zelensky, meanwhile, will address Lithuania as his global press tour continues. Its prime minister visited Ukraine on Monday.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.